Hey guys, I'm putting together another video here. This one's for doors, hanging doors, and I'll probably expand it into some trim as well. There's been some struggles lately about hanging doors and mortising hinges. Usually we get the doors and the jambs mortised out like pre-hung or what's called flat pack as well. I bought this set of doors for a job. They need to be mortised out, so I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to put together a video about how I like to do this. I'm going to bring you in here on some of the details. I've got this laid out here just to kind of as a show and tell. This is my door stand. Built this a long time ago. I find it's really helpful when you're mortising doors just so you can have hands free and nice and safe. So I'll bring you in here in a minute and you can see some of the details I'm talking about. Okay, so don't know if you can see it from this angle, but what I've laid out here is the jamb and the door. And from this angle, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up well, but there's a bevel on this door. This is the high side and this is the low side. So then you can see here, that's the way I've got the hinge oriented. Doors have a taper on them so that when they close, they don't bind, and so that the leading edge doesn't strike the other jamb when it's closing. So I'll show you that some more when we get to hanging the door. But this is just a general overview of what's going on. So what I've done here is, as you can see, this is a 6-panel door. This is the top end of the door. That's the bottom. So I'm doing a double door set. So I'm going to do a left hand and a right hand hinge. I'm going to show you for a minute what the difference is in a left hand and a right hand hinge. This door here is a right hand hinge. It's an in-swing. In-swing or outswing doesn't really matter. It's only on exterior doors that's important. But this is called a right hand hinge. The reason it's called a right hand hinge, and this is the way my father taught me, is the hinges we use on doors are called butt hinges. So if you take and put your butt by the hinge, okay, the way that the door swings, whatever hand that is, that's the hinge of the door. So I've got my butt at the hinge, and if I swing my hand and mimic, I'm using my right hand to do that. I don't know if that's going to come clear in the video, but I can show you that to you guys sometime as well. So that would be a right hand hinge. On this door here, what I've got laid out is the jamb and the door. I've got them laid side by side, and what I'm showing here is I've laid out the head jamb, which is about 5/8 of an inch. So that's the jamb that would come up this way on the door frame. Then there's about 1/8 of an inch gap, and then this is where the door lines up with that frame. So I've measured down approximately 7 inches. Well, no, exactly 7 inches. That's the top of the top hinge. And if you measure down here to the second hinge, I go 70. So 7 and 70, I find those are easy numbers to remember. And then the hinge goes down from there. So our hinge would be in this space right here. So I'm going to bring you back in when I show you the jig I've built for mortising out these hinges. It's just a router jig. It uses a flush trim router bit, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so I've got my jig set up here. I'm probably going to make a few of these jigs. They're really simple. It's just a basic outline for a 3-inch hinge to fit in. This one's a little snug yet. I might clean it up some, but to be honest, I'd rather have it a little bit snug than loose. So there's the top hinge there, and here's our bottom hinge here, 2 notch outs. They're not perfect, but we can always clean them up a little bit. And like I said, I'd rather have them snug than loose. So I'm going to bring you back in here when I get the router set up. Okay, so I'm using what's called a flush trim bit or a mortising bit. I've got it in this cordless router. We've got a bunch of DeWalt ones and some corded ones. I think there's a couple rigid ones out there too, but this is the one that I just recently bought. And this bit, if you can get an idea there, has this little ball bearing here. that rides on the jig on the template, and then this bit is the thing that does the cutting. So I've got it set so that it'll cut about the thickness of the hinge into the door. So that's about 1/8 of an inch or so. You can adjust it as you go. I recommend you do, but we're just going to go ahead and cut these. I've got it set at about in the middle of the speed. It's not absolutely crucial, but so we'll get this cut. I like to use this bigger base with a better grip. And that's all there is to it. I recommend checking it, make sure it fits. It's a little bit snug still. I might have to adjust this jig a bit, but again, it's better to have it snug than it is to have it too loose. So you'll have to check that yourself, but I'll bring you in here for a sec. So there you can see how it's been cut in, about the thickness of the hinge. So that mortises that hinge right into the door. We're going to do the same thing on the jamb. So there's the top hinge and the bottom. You can do it for 3 hinges too. This door actually could use a 3rd hinge because it's a solid core, but we're just going to go with 2 for now. Okay, so I cleaned up the hinge a little bit. I made that, just cut this back a little bit more to adjust that. So now this hinge nicely fits in there. A little bit snug. There we go. So nicely grips it like that. So there's that one. And then down here as well, same thing. I just cleaned up the opening a little bit just so it fits in there nice. So there you go. So now I'm going to use it on the jamb as well. I'll show you. I'll bring you that back in for that next. Okay guys, I'm bringing you back in here just to make this as clear as I can. Door hinges can be confusing because there's a left and a right every time. They're basically a mirror image. What you have to remember is that the jamb swings around just as the door does, right? So I just finished routering out this hinge here. I wanted to lay this on top to show you that the jamb is actually the mirror image of the door. So when we had this jig on here to router out the door, when we have to router out the jamb, we actually have to flip this in order for that to work. It's good for you to remember that's not just automatic, you just stick it on. This can get confusing, so take your time, visualize it. I made these little blocks so that you could clamp this on and just see. It doesn't hurt for you to actually just trace a little line on there so that you know that when you lay this on the bench over there and you're routering it out, you've got it exactly where you want it to be. Okay guys, I brought this jamb over here on the workbench. You can see I've got it laid out here. I hope that's coming in clearly on the camera. It's tricky to see. Here's the top of our frame. There's the gap, and there's the top head jamb space. There's the hinge that I was just talking about that you roughly mark. There's another one down here. Might be hard for you to see, I'll bring you in later, but I've designed this jig so that the top of this is flush with the top of the frame with the head jamb on top of it. So when we lay this here and make this flush, this is going to line up exactly where we want it to, okay? So I've also designed it so that you can clamp it like so. Okay, so we can just router that out now. I'm going to do the bottom too. The thing I like about these jigs is that the alignment is always perfect between these. It always stays perfect. So anyways, I'll router these out and then I'll show you the bottom ones. It's important, if you've not routered much, that you know that routers have a spin, and when you're routering, they tend to pull you in. So I like to router around the outside first, get those outsides nice and clean the way you want them, and then come back and clean up the rest of it. I'll bring you down to the other one, show you again. There we go. So I'm going to come in here. It's going to pull me in and up against the jig. The way the bit turns is this way. So as it's pulling this way, it pulls the router in. I'll show you. So it's pulling the router that way as I go. Now it's pulling that way. Now it's pulling this way. Okay, it's just the way it cuts. Sorry if you had headphones on there. So there you go. Those are cut too. I'll bring you back. Okay, so here's the hinge fit. As you can see, it's got a nice snug fit. It doesn't hurt to actually tap those in. I'm a little bit low on the jamb here, like I've got it sunk in a little bit much. That's actually okay. It makes it easier to adjust it when you have time to hang it. Here's the other one. Should fit pretty good too. A little looser than the top one, but again, a little bit below flush, which is fine. These hinges have a lot of slop in them, so it doesn't really hurt too bad to go in that far. You could adjust it out so it doesn't cut as deep. That's probably what I'll do on the next one. Make sure it's not cutting. It's cutting a little bit too deep on that. So you're gonna want to adjust that on these. I think the DeWalt one has one too. You just loosen it off. You can spin this in and out to adjust that. Okay. So that's it for now. I'm going to cut out the other one. I might do a speed pass on that for you. Just do a time lapse on that. You can watch me cut the other one. And then I'll bring you back in when we start assembling the jamb and maybe when we hang it. I wanted to bring you guys in and show you something that came with this kit. This is a centering bit. It's good for when you're drilling the holes for these hinges. A lot of times what happens if you don't pre-drill these, when you set the screws in here, they'll tend to wander and pull that hinge around. So if you use this bit, it's retractable and it's got the drill bit inside there, but it centers itself on the hinge. So if you watch this, watch. It does a hole nice and centered, which it seems like a small thing, but when you're doing these, if that hole's not in the right spot, it can actually pull that hinge crooked and do all sorts of funny things. So I just wanted to show you guys that feature too. It's a Ryobi set I bought. It's probably just an old cheapie, but it definitely makes the job. Okay guys, I wanted to bring you back in again to do the header length. Because it's a double door, there's a little bit extra information you need to know. Typically what I'll do when I'm hanging a door is I'll have an 1/8 of an inch gap on this side, 1/8 of an inch gap on this side. So because I cut my leg jambs longer so that we can nail the header in the end, you basically need to cut the header the same length as the door plus the gaps. So on this double door, what we're going to have is an extra gap. We're going to have 1/8 of an inch gap here, 1/8 of an inch gap here, and an 1/8 of an inch gap here. So these doors are 32s, very close to 32. So 32 plus 32 is 64 plus 888, so we'll be 64 3/8. I'm going to cut it just a hair less than that because these doors are a little smaller than 32, so we're going to go 64 5/16, but that should be good enough to get this frame put together and to get this door hung. So probably the next time you'll see me, I'll be on the job site, hoping we can set up on the job and you can watch as I install this door. You'll also know, I don't know if you can see it on the camera there or not, but these jambs are extra long. Okay? They're 84-inch jambs. Obviously they're taller than the door is. I do that on purpose. When we set the door frame, what we'll do is we'll hang a laser up. And we'll hang a laser up because it's in a home. It's not that old, but the builder sometimes cuts corners. So we'll hang a laser up, and that way we can measure down to make sure that our jamb lengths are correct so that that header ends up being perfectly level. And then we'll plumb up our door our door jambs from that. So I'll bring you back in when we're on the job site there. Hopefully I can do that. I might do it as a hyperlapse, we'll see. But I might bring you in on some of the more detailed things as well.